Okay, I'm here with Rob Zimmerman. Rob Zimmerman is a name known well around the Country Day campus and community. He is a graduate of the school. He is a trustee, and he's a father of two wonderful students here at Country Day. And I wanted just to speak with you, Rob. Thanks for joining today about the Country Day pen flip. As we're all in this sheltering at home, a lot of us are learning new skills and new ways to develop ourselves as people. And I thought, wouldn't this be a great way for me as the head of school to learn a little bit more about Country Day and to understand how the pen flip came to be and maybe how to do this. Can you, first of all, just let us know, when did you learn the pen flip?
The pen flip predates me by many years, and I don't know its history. Like all great traditions, I'm sure it's lost somewhere in the annals of the school and the subject of all kinds of rumor and false stories. But I learned it in the early 90s when I came to Country Day in ninth grade. And I believe it was either Phil Go or Warner Off in the library in the old building. And they were doing this funny thing with their pen. And they kept doing this. So I finally looked over and said, well, what the heck is that? And they explained what they were doing. They were flipping a pen. And so I said, okay, that sounds like a good idea. I'll see if I can learn this trick too, since it seems like everybody at my new school knows how to do this. And gosh, it was hard. It took me probably up through my graduation in 1998 before I actually figured out how to do it with any kind of proficiency. So it became something of a task for me and a measure of my integration into the school community when I came to Country Day in 1994, I guess it was.
All right.
But Phil Go and Warner Off get all credit for being my coaches on the matter.
Very good. So I've got a couple of different pens here. Does it really matter kind of what kind of pen I would use?
Well, a good craftsman never blames his tools, but yes, I believe that it does make a difference. I think you want a pen that's somewhat light, that has balanced weight, and the balanced weight is more important than anything, because what you're doing is you're throwing it so that you can catch it on either end, or you can do the double flip like that, but which actually I prefer because it's of the consistency. But you do want a pen that it has enough light to be able to throw in the air and enough balance on each end that you can catch it successfully. If it's too heavy on one side or the other, it's not going to work well without a lot of practice.
Very good. Now, I imagine that you use your dominant hand. It probably would be difficult to try with both hands?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, Mr. Zimmerman, let's give us an instruction here.
Okay, it's really quite simple. All one has to do, or how I do it, is to hold it in my hand with three fingers, resting on top of my middle finger, squeeze between my index finger and my thumb. And then the action is to pull back with my index finger and down.
Oh, got it.
Push up slightly with my middle finger on which the pen rests and let go like that.
And it's a half rotation?
It can be either. It can be a half rotation or it can be a full rotation.
So the full rotation is what you call the double?
Correct.
Got it.
And that, in some respects, is easier with a pen like this cheap Bic pen, which has not perfect weight. It may be easier to throw it and then catch it on that end that you threw it from. And if you get really cocky, you can do, like dives, many of them in a row. But the action itself is quite simple. It's just that, catching it from the same place you threw it. But like anything, it requires tons and tons and tons of practice. And for me, it literally took years of practice, which is no criticism at all of my teachers at Country Day, but there were a lot of classes where I sat there doing this and honed my skills. And then being a lawyer has been really good for my opportunity for practice. So
now let me ask you this. Can you do this without looking? Can you do a regular pen flip without looking?
Probably. I could probably close my eyes and do it.
Wow, that's impressive. Now, have you ever flipped a pen in such a way that somebody said, wait a minute, I recognize that pen flip?
Yes, that's happened plenty of times.
Really?
And the truth is, there's a lot of times when when it gets noticed, but I was in most recent time I can think of, I was in a meeting at work maybe 6 months ago. Yep. And there were 4 or 5 other folks in there, much older than me, in their 60s and 70s, 2 of whom were real pillars of the community. At one point I was, I do this without even thinking about it. It's just like you breathe or you ride a bike, and one of them leaned over and said, "Did you go to Country Day?" And I said, "Yes, I did." And this person said, "So did I, class of, I forget, 67 or something like that." And I did not know that. So no question that flip, which I was doing just sort of, instinctively, made an additional connection that I didn't even know about.
Now, I mentioned at the beginning that you have two boys who are here at Country Day. They're both in the lower school. Have either of them watched you do this and tried to learn, or are you going to wait a little bit till they're a little bit older, their hands a little bit bigger before you instruct them in this art?
Not yet. They've seen it, and I've told them about it a little bit, but it requires some fine motor skills and dexterity that maybe my boys are a little behind the curve, but they don't yet have that.
Okay.
The kindergartner is still trying to learn how to write. The fourth grader, I coached him in sports enough to know what his limitations are. So I think we may save this for middle school.
One step at a time. Now, I know you have some wonderful brothers who are also graduates of the school. Are they as skilled as you are in the pen flip?
I don't honestly know. I haven't done it with them in a while. I think that I have probably developed this habit to a point where I've become pretty proficient at it, I say, as I drop it. So it could be that my brothers don't do it as well as I do, but I honestly haven't seen it in a while. And believe it or not, it has not been a topic of competition amongst the brothers.
Very good. Well, who knows? Maybe a Zoom challenge among the Zimmerman family.
That's right. Our next Zimmerman family Zoom happy hour, which is becoming quite a thing. We'll try that.
Yeah, very good. And how is your family doing in this really unusual time?
We're doing fine. The truth is, we're doing as well as anybody can be. We've got a good living arrangement here. We got backyard, and Indian Hill's a nice place to be in at this time of year. So we're getting out and being active and trying to stay connected with our family through Zoom happy hours or walks together where we're, staying appropriately distanced. So all things told, we're doing fine. And the boys have adapted really well to the online, to the remote learning. It's really accelerated the fourth graders' independence in a way that's actually probably been helpful long-term. The kindergartner, he's a 6-year-old. So teaching a 6-year-old, having mom and dad teach a 6-year-old could be a challenge, but he's doing well. I think, again, long-term for him, he'll probably be a more resilient and adaptive learner because of it.
Very great. All right, last thing. Let's just give a couple more flips here.
Okay.
I think, as you pick it up off the ground, right?
I pick it up off the ground.
All right, so here we are, the master class. I'm going to have to check back with you, Rob, in maybe, 4 years, you said?
4 years.
I'll try to accelerate. I'll try to accelerate that,
I'll put it this way. By the time Harrison is in 9th grade, I expect you to be proficient.
All right. Sounds good. Rob, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Tony.